Welcome to the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva, where we talk about a leading jazz icon down the timeline of jazz. On today's show, it's all about jazz guitarist Blake Aaron. On this hour, some of his chart-topping hits. Here's a quick recap of what we're going to be talking about on this hour. The first series of singles is taken from Aaron's album Love and Rhythm. As soon as the album was released, three of its singles, Feel So Right, Crush and Dreamland, were topping the Billboard charts. The album opens with the chart-topping hit Dreamland, which is about the magic of a dream come true. Crush is a song that describes the feeling when everything is going great, like visiting a beach in summer, feeling on top of the world. Feel So Right, a bright sunny track. She's the One, an easy groovy track. Another album that saw similar success is album Fall For You. Upon release, 5 of the singles from this album ended up bagging the #1 spot on the Billboard charts. Groovers and Shakers, Sunday Strut, Feel So Right, Drive and Dreamland. Groovers and Shakers combines retro, R&B, dance flow, funk and cool jazz. The next track, Sunday Strut, is a jam session by Aaron and Najee, and Drive, a jazz hit from the contemporary jazz genre. And that was a quick recap of the songs we're going to be talking about on this hour. You're tuned into the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. We're going for a short break. We'll be right back after that. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva, where we talk about a leading jazz icon down the timeline of jazz. On today's show, it's about jazz guitarist Blake Aaron. On this hour, some of his chart-topping hits. The first series of singles is taken from his album Love and Rhythm. This album reflected his love of different styles of music. In this album, he and his bandmates Adam Hawley and Greg Manning experiment with different genres of music blended into one. The tracks blend R&B and jazz and funk themes with Brazilian jazz. As soon as the album was released, 3 of its singles, Feel So Right, Crush and Dreamland, were topping the Billboard charts. The album opens with a chart-topping hit Dreamland, which is about the magic of a dream come true. Dreams are magical. They transport us to a world where impossible becomes possible. Making dreams come true is an incredible experience. Just thinking about it gets one excited. And some dreams don't come true, others do. And it can be very exciting waiting for a dream to come true, and this song talks about all of that. Blake wrote the tune alongside Adam Hawley. Dreamland in this album is the epitome of smooth jazz, with Adam Hawley on keyboard matching Aaron's dexterity on the guitar. Crush, the second song, was also written by Hawley and Blake. This song describes the feeling of when everything is going great, like visiting a beach in summer, feeling on top of the world. It's a definition of feeling happy, the bliss, the joy that comes with that feeling. So this song is about adding happiness to a gloomy day. A sensual, groovy song. The highlight of the instrumentals are Tate and Katie Diggs' piano playing. They had a graceful, elegant groove to the song. Aaron's guitar playing is soulful and sultry on this track. So many of Blake Aaron's songs are slow and melancholy. This track was a deviation from the norm. On this track, he's sultry and peppy. The lyrics are about the magical moment of falling in love. Feel So Right is a bright, sunny track. On this track, Ken Toner is on vocals. It was co-written by Aaron and Greg Manning. The theme of this song is about a woman dancing in the sun. She's the One is an easy, groovy track. This is one epic track and it hit the Billboard charts upon the album's release. It's the entire breadth of emotional spectrum and the musical spectrum. This song is about that moment of falling in love. The song talks about the euphoria, that pleasure when you fall in love for the very first time. It's a thrilling experience. You can't even stop thinking about the other person. You want to be with them forever. Another album that saw similar success is album Fall For You. He wrote this album alongside several other artists. Upon release, 5 of the singles from this album ended up bagging the #1 spot on the Billboard charts. Groovers and Shakers, Sunday Strut, Feel So Right, Drive and Dreamland. Groovers and Shakers is performed by Darren Run and Blake on guitar. Run was also one of the producers and he's also on various instrumentals. Groovers and Shakers combines retro, R&B, dance flow, funk and cool jazz. There's Aaron on jazz guitar, Darren Run on sizzling saxophone melodies. So, in our lives, there's always the people, the groovers and shakers who make things go smoothly. This song was written by Blake as a tribute to the groovers and shakers of the jazz community. Everybody who makes the jazz arena, from the fans who turn up to concerts, to the festival promoters, to the media. Drive, another collaboration between Aaron and Darren. This melody features a synthetic bass, and it's a great track, as the title suggests, to listen to on a long drive. This was a jazz hit from the contemporary jazz genre. And welcome back to the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. On today's show, it's all about jazz guitarist Blake Aaron. Now for some trending concert news. The Cultural Center 92nd Street Y in New York has announced a new series of jazz concerts, Jazz in July 2024. It's all part of New York's summer culture season. The event features 6 concerts from July 12th to 27th. Tickets went up for sale a few days ago. You can also tune in online. So this event features all kinds of innovations like new perspectives on the Great American Songbook, that's a compilation of some of the best classics in music, also global sounds and boundary blurring explorations. It's all about creating a communal space for musicians and concert goers to come together to celebrate a shared passion. For more information, please visit www.92ny.org. And that was some trending concert news, and you're tuned into the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. We're going for a short break. We'll be right back after that. When we come back, we're going to be talking about more of Blake Aaron's best albums of all time. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. On today's show, it's about jazz guitarist Blake Aaron. On this hour, more of his best albums of all time. Here's a quick recap of what's coming up. So the first album's called With Every Touch. This was Aaron's debut release and brought him to the jazz forefront. It was also his very first release on his new label, Innovation Records. The album contains nostalgic songs like Whenever I Breathe, One Moment With You, With Every Touch, Rumblefish and more. The album Bringing It Back was released 2 years later. So Aaron wrote 4 of the songs in this album with his co-producer Michael Whitaker. For instance, melodies like So In Love and Keeping It Real. We also see special appearances by trumpeter Greg Adams on this album. Overall, a bluesy R&B themed album with vibrant undertones. The next album was Aaron's 5th studio album. It's called Soul Stories. It consists of a compilation of smooth jazz tracks. There's also 2 vocal tracks on the album. And that was a recap of the albums we are going to be talking about on this hour. You're tuned into the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. Don't forget to check out my YouTube channel for archives of today's show on the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. We'll be right back after some music. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva, where we talk about a leading jazz icon down the timeline of jazz. On today's show, it's about jazz guitarist Blake Aaron. On this hour, more of his best albums of all time. Now, when you put luck, circumstance and sheer talent in one, you get an album like Blake Aaron's debut album With Every Touch. This was Aaron's debut release and was actually not planned, yet it brought him to the jazz forefront. Story goes that one day, one of his students, Peter Widmer, approached him and asked him for copies of his demo tracks. So that led to them deciding on coming up with a new album together. That also led to Aaron coming up with an idea for his own label, Innovation Records. And With Every Touch was the debut album release on that label in 2001. The album contains nostalgic songs like Whenever I Breathe, One Moment With You, With Every Touch, Rumblefish and more. So this album took over 2 years to materialize. Aaron said he'd still been new to the business when he started out making this album. By contrast, Bringing It Back, released 2 years later, was accomplished in less than a fraction of the time that it took to accomplish the first album. Aaron said he'd only had 3 songs from the previous album. He added a few more and the album was ready in less than 2 months. But why would he make a CD in such a short time span? Well, according to Aaron, he wasn't even thinking of coming up with a CD at the time. Turns out one day he was chatting with his producers and crew and then somebody asked if he had made any new tunes, so he responded with the song She's So Fine. It was an immediate sensation and led to them coming up with a whole new album of live tunes. So he wrote 4 of the songs in this album with his co-producer Michael Whitaker. Aaron said co-writing the songs changed the style a bit. He says collaborating can spark creativity when you're out of ideas. For instance, the melody Keeping It Real was due to Michael Whitaker's creative genius. Another song, So In Love, turned out way differently than Aaron had foreseen. Originally, the song was similar to another song in the album called Infatuation. Aaron wanted each track to sound different, so he redid the melody and the instrumentals. Now, inspiration for new songs can come from anywhere. Sometimes creative impulse can come in a flood of ideas and vibes. She's So Fine was one such song. Took him just 45 minutes to write it. This one's a fun, upbeat track and features an appearance by Greg Adams on trumpet. Aaron provides the soulful guitar instrumentals in the backdrop. Chicago Song, a slower tempo song in which we see Aaron on guitar, supplemented by Mike Todd on saxophone. A perfect tune to showcase Aaron's deep resonant style. One Beautiful Day, a bluesy melody. In the song Bringing It Back, we see another appearance by Greg Adams, and this one's a groovy dance-themed song. A dynamic song full of romantic themes, I Thought It Was You. This song features guitar, keyboard, and bass. There's also a funky track called Gonzo's in the House featuring saxophone Jeff Gonzalez and Aaron on guitar. Overall, a bluesy R&B themed album with vibrant undertones. The next album was Aaron's 5th studio album and it's called Soul Stories. Consists of a compilation of smooth jazz tracks. It starts off with a beautiful track called Groovomatic. This one's a tight up-tempo track featuring groovy beats, great for a dance track. There's 2 vocal tracks on the album. You're My Miracle is performed by Derek Bordeaux on vocals, and You're the One for Me featuring Spencer Day. The standout track from this album is probably a Wes Montgomery tribute. It's called West Side Story. A smooth jazz track tinged with a Latin rhythm. Europa is an ode to outer space, the cosmos, a spaced-out track, and a very emotional, passionate song called Sarah Smile. Welcome back to the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashani Silva, where we talk about a leading jazz icon down the timeline of jazz. On today's show, it's all about jazz guitarist Blake Aaron. We've come to an end of today's episode of the Jazz Update, so now let's recap what we were discussing on the show. First, an insight into his biography. Blake Aaron is an iconic jazz guitarist. He has an incredible streak of having 5 of his singles topping the Billboard charts in the contemporary jazz genre. His smash hit album Color and Passion had 3 number 1 singles topping the charts upon release. His next album, Love and Rhythm, followed up with 2 Billboard chart-topping singles. Blake began performing as a guitarist in Los Angeles. He's performed alongside other jazz greats from Nudgy to Bobby Womack to Darren Grant. He's also composed for TV shows like Super Dave Osborne, Comedy Central, The Ben Stiller Show, and more. So now let's talk about some of Blake Aaron's best albums of all time, to start off with the album Color and Passion. As soon as this album was released, 2 singles from the album were topping the Billboard charts for the entire year 2019. On one of the singles, Groovers and Shakers, Blake teams up with Darren Grant. Fall For You, a self-produced silky smooth song. With his 3rd chart-topping hit, we see him collaborating with Adam Hawley on Sunday Strut. Love and Rhythm was Blake's 7th studio album. As soon as it was released, 2 of its singles were also topping the Billboard charts. In this album, he blends jazz, R&B, Brazilian, and pop music. In his own words, this album reflected his passion for all genres of rhythm and music. And here's a quick recap of Blake Aaron's chart-topping singles. The first songs are taken from his album Love and Rhythm. As soon as the album was released, 3 of its singles, Feel So Right, Crush, and Dreamland, were topping the Billboard charts. The album opens with Dreamland, which is about the magic of a dream come true. Crush, a song that describes the feeling of when everything is going great, like visiting a beach in summer, feeling on top of the world. Feel So Right is a bright, sunny track. She's the One is an easy, groovy track. Another album that saw similar success, the album Fall For You. Upon release, 5 of the singles from this album ended up bagging the number 1 spot on the Billboard charts. Groovers and Shakers, Sunday Strut, Feel So Right, Drive, and Dreamland. Groovers and Shakers combines retro, R&B, dance floor funk, and cool jazz. And Drive, a jazz hit from the contemporary jazz genre. And that was some insight into the life and times and best hits of jazz guitarist Blake Aaron. And on that note, we've come to an end of today's episode of the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashani Silva. Don't forget to check out my YouTube channel for archives of today's show on the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashani Silva. I'll see you again next week. Have a great week ahead.